Something really big is happening in science right now. You see, AI isn't just a tool anymore. It's actually becoming a partner in the process of discovery itself. Today, we're going to look at how this new kind of AI is set to completely reinvent biology as we know it.
Okay, I want you to just look at this number. 617 million. Right now, it's just a number, right? It's huge, but it's meaningless without context. But what it stands for, well, it's a biological revolution packed into 9 digits. So what is it? This is the number of protein structures predicted by an AI. And this is so important because you can think of proteins as these little microscopic machines that run everything in our bodies. Figuring out their 3D shape is absolutely the key to understanding how they work and how to fix them when they break.
And here's the really wild part. This was done in just 2 weeks. Let me say that again, because it's kind of mind-blowing. That's more structures than scientists have figured out in the entire history of biology combined, all done in the time it takes a regular lab to prep a single experiment. That's the scale and speed we're talking about now. So how? How is something like this even possible? Well, it all starts with teaching AI to speak the language of life itself. We've basically been handed this brand new, incredibly powerful toolbox. And the heart of this new toolbox? Something called Genomic Foundation Models. It sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Think about how chatbots work. They're trained on, basically the entire internet to understand human language. Well, these models are the same idea, but instead of the internet, they're trained on massive data sets of biological code. They're learning to read and speak DNA and proteins. And what's so cool is how this simplifies things for researchers. You basically just ask yourself, okay, what's my job today? Am I digging into the DNA, the instruction manual for life? Or am I trying to figure out the proteins, the actual machines that get the work done? Whichever it is, there's now a specialized AI ready to help. Okay, so the tools are getting way more powerful. That's amazing. But and this is maybe the most important part of this whole story, it's not just about what the tools can do, it's about who gets to use them. Yeah, just look at this. This chart says it all. On one hand, you've got a model that costs around $1 million to train, and it needs a whole room full of supercomputers. And on the other, a model that can be trained for about $2,000 using graphics cards you could literally buy online. We're talking about a 500 times drop in cost. That's just wild. And that right there, that is the whole point. This is what takes a technology from being locked away in the labs of a few tech giants and puts it into the hands of pretty much any university lab, any grad student with a bright idea. This is how a real revolution gets started. So where do we go from here? We've got these incredible AI tools that can translate bits and pieces of biological code. But what happens when we start putting them all together? Well, that's when the AI goes from being just a translator to be more like a storyteller. And this brings us to a really powerful idea called multi-omics. Instead of just reading one book about a person, like their genetic code, it's like reading all the books at once. Their genes, their proteins, their metabolism, all of it to build one single, complete health story. And this isn't just theoretical. This has real-world impact in the clinic right now. Sometimes when you get a genetic test, the result comes back with what's called a variant of uncertain significance. It's limbo. It basically means we found something, but we have no idea if it's dangerous or totally harmless. For doctors and patients, that's a terrible place to be. But with multi-omics, the AI can look at other data layers, like what your proteins are doing, and suddenly get the context it needs. It can help figure out if a variant is actually causing a problem or if it's benign. That means more confident diagnoses and better treatment decisions. But the story doesn't stop there. Not even close. We're moving into the final and, frankly, the most mind-bending phase of this whole thing. AI isn't just telling the story anymore. It's starting to write it. So let's just push this idea as far as it can go. What if AI could do more than just analyze the data we give it? What if it could form a hypothesis, design the experiment, run it, and interpret the results, all by itself? Well, that's the big idea behind this emerging field called Agentic Bioinformatics. The paradigm shift here is that the AI agents aren't just tools you pick up and use for a task. They're collaborators. They're integrated into the entire research process, from the initial idea all the way to the final conclusion. Probably the easiest way to picture this is to imagine a research team made entirely of AI agents. So first up, you have the brainstormer.
Its job is to read every new scientific paper out there and come up with a cool new hypothesis. Then it hands it off to the planner, which designs the absolute best, most efficient experiment to test that idea. Next, the lab tech, which could be connected to actual robots in a lab, physically runs the experiment. And finally, the analyst looks at all the data, figures out what it means, and then feeds that insight right back to the brainstormer to start the whole loop all over again.
Okay, so that future sounds incredible, right? But it's not a sure thing, not by a long shot. To get there, we have to be really smart and really careful about how we build this. There are some really significant hurdles we have to clear. For one, data bias. If our training data isn't diverse, our AI's conclusions will be skewed. Then there's the black box problem. We have to be able to understand why an AI reached a certain conclusion, especially in medicine. We've got to deal with AI hallucinations, where it just makes stuff up that sounds plausible but is biologically wrong. And on a practical level, just getting all these different agents and tools to talk to each other is a huge challenge. And of course, the big one, the ethical guardrails. We absolutely need to have rules in place to make sure this is all used responsibly, especially when we start talking about things like genetic engineering. And that really brings us to the bottom line. Look, this massive transformation in science, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's already happening. It's here. So the real question, the one we all have to think about, scientists, regulators, all of us, is what are we going to do about it? How are we going to shape this revolution to make sure it benefits everyone